That way we don't have to worry about anything. We can just talk. Well, I talk about Airport of the Year. That's still just a great feather in the cap of the whole community. I know that's something that you're really proud about. But talk a little bit about you and your history and how long you've been here and just sort of how you got from point A to here. When did you start here?
Well, I started here in January 1977. I'd spent 22 years in the Air Force, and I'd been stationed over at Bergstrom and got to know a vice president named Mr. Chuck Cargill pretty well over there. And I was getting ready to retire, and he indicated he'd like me to consider coming over here for Easterwood Airport. So I had one of my kids were here in school at that time, so we were over here periodically, and that was the first time I ever saw Easterwood, and I could see a great deal of potential there. But I'd never ran a small airport. I ran Bergstrom for about 3 years over there after I got out of rescue, and so I'd flown rescue helicopters for several years, and they closed the squadron down over there, so I was looking for a new job anyway, so I ended up in airfield management, and from there into here. So that's how it went.
Now, in the service, did you serve in Korea or Vietnam?
Vietnam.
Okay. And you were a rescue helicopter pilot?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a whole
different ballgame.
Whole different budget.
It's a far cry from running airfields to a degree.
It's, I guess running airfields is a little bit easier maybe than...
at times, yeah.
At times. Sometimes it's not. So 22 years you've been here.
Yes. At 22 years in January.
22 years in January of 2000?
No, last
January. Okay. It'll be 22 years. Changes, my goodness. Just, we talk about the facility. We talk about changes in passengers, changes in safety, security. I mean, you've seen an awful lot go by your window as far as a change in the airline industry. Talk a little bit about that, what you've seen in the last 22 years. Let's just talk about this facility first, this McKenzie terminal, obviously from across the way. Talk about that.
Well, let's stand in the middle of the airport in our imagination for a moment and look in all directions, all 360 degrees of this airport. You will see something that has changed since 22 years ago. The first major project we had was took an old control tower down and started renovating the old general aviation terminal, and then we started putting lights on the taxiways and lights on the runways and apron lights so you could not fall over your airplane at night, and new tower and approach lighting and pilot directory signs, runway extension, new taxiways, new taxiway and runway lighting, a fuel farm. Then we launched into McKenzie Terminal in 1990. Opened that up in February of 90, and we've grown from a low of 910 passengers a year to hopefully this year we'll exceed 100,000. And we've improved and continued to put in new storm drain systems, deer fences. We've gone out and gotten rental car agencies, and we still have our FBO that services power plant and airframe on aircraft, and we've gotten an electronics company in here. We have four rental car agencies. We have 3 taxi cab companies, and we're looking for more. We're looking for a restaurant upstairs and a lounge, and we're looking for a gift shop. And we've just recently put in a modern advertising system in the base of all over McKenzie Terminal and through Interspace in Pennsylvania. And we look like a downtown airport now. And our traffic is over 6,000 a month. That's takeoff and landings. We have our own maintenance division, our own operations division. We handle all the fuel. The tower has gone civilian contract, but we still enjoy the fact that we have a tower here, and hopefully we'll get radar in the very near future. We've got numerous FAA projects in the mill, the safety area off of the west direction runway 28, grooving of runway 28, a new addition to the taxiway hotel that comes out of the McKenzie terminal and goes southbound. We're hoping to put in some new hangars on the east side over in a GA area. And of course, our pending biggest project that we have, hopefully we'll get accomplished within the next 5 to 7 years, is an air park, which is on the eastern side of McKenzie Terminal off of the access roads to McKenzie. And then that we're going to hopefully have 18 business sites for hangar and business buildings that will be interconnected by taxiways and roadways, and it would very much look like the access to Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston as you drive on the Greenway into the airport. So that's our next project that we keep an imagination going. We've always had a saying here, you're only limited by your imagination.
Wow, that is fantastic. How have, in 22 years, how have these passengers that have rose up to 100,000 this year, how have they changed as far as business travelers, student traveler, or as student travelers increased, decreased, about stayed the same as far as the rate you get more business travelers? How have you seen that change over 22 years? Who's flying in and out of Easterwood?
It's difficult to say what your mix is because we do not keep a running total of type passenger mix. Only thing I can say is we have watched the gradual increase of enplanements on the commercial airlines. Now I can tell you all about the general aviation or business aviation. General aviation has had a tendency to fall off since 1983 when the oil bust hit. And product liability has affected the sale of aircraft, personal aircraft. Taxing has changed the picture of business aircraft. And we have seen a tremendous growth in larger general aviation business type aircraft. And I'm talking about the twin engine jets, the twin engine turboprops. We've seen a lot of that. Our military has increased some, but the mix has changed. Used to be we had a tremendous amount of helicopters that under our DoD contract for fueling, but now we see a lot of military Air Force training rather than the helicopters coming in. So that mix has changed. So general aviation, business aircraft, and military has changed tremendously. Now under the commercial side of the house, the air carriers are gradually going toward what we call jump jets, and they are not jump, and they are going to convert the turboprop fleet to a small jet fleet, which is 40 to 78 passengers. And this will change the face of transportation tremendously, and we are probably going to see that within 3 years here. They're gradually going to the larger hop routes right now with the major air carriers, and they're buying these small jet aircraft and replacing the turboprops. There's always a group of people who say, I'm not going to fly on that little airplane. And they construe a little airplane as anything with a propeller on it, no matter if it's the size of a 747. So I think when you see, again, your mix of passengers will change when the jets come online with the air carriers that we have servicing here, which we have two. And we are still anticipating a third carrier, either ASA or somebody to come back in here. And right now, there's been some minor overtures on the part of a new startup airline, but I'm not ready to talk about that yet. But
when you talk about the jet service coming in, you're right. There is those group of people that just say, I'm not going to fly on a plane with propellers.
That's right. It's a small airplane.
It's a small airplane.
No matter if it has 4 flight attendants and a crew of 9. You know.
That's right. But if indeed that does happen to where you increase the passenger load because of that, do you see maybe some of the air carriers giving little bit more diverse routes than the Houston and Dallas now? Because you always hear people say, when are they going to get a route to Austin or San Antonio or something like that? Do you see that happening?
We are struggling, I'm not say struggling, but we are trying to encourage a east-west route. And to me, I've always felt there's a market in here, but the east-west route has to go perhaps beyond Austin. Now, Austin is another gateway or another hub city, especially with the new Bergstrom International Airport. And it will be another first step to everywhere. I anticipate, quite honestly, that Austin is going to become a real competitor of us with the automobile, because now you're just a little over an hour away from, and not a whole lot of traffic either, to go to Austin Bergstrom International to catch a carrier, and they have a lot more carriers than we do. You're looking at Southwest, you're looking at several carriers that go westerly. So I think eventually somebody's going to wake up, somebody meaning one of the air carriers, and establish an east-west route in here from either Baton Rouge or New Orleans or up at Tyler or somewhere that comes through here into Austin down into the valley. And I think there's a definite market toward the Corpus, Brownsville, McAllen area. So, but that's just my opinion, of course. And they do market studies all the time, and they figure what it costs to carry each passenger and how many empty seats they have, and they've got a profit margin to maintain. And I think that it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. You're talking about training, military training aircraft that use this facility. This is a unique facility, sort of for the same reasons that Bryan College Station is a unique town, a very large town with a big student population that does not have access to an interstate highway. I think somebody told me one time this is the largest city in the country that doesn't have access to an interstate highway. Mm-hmm. I guess it kind of goes along with your facility also, not a real high traffic area as far as airplanes and air traffic is concerned, but still a facility with the runways to where it is very attractive to training like you're talking about, right?
It is, and we are definitely a feeder type regional air carrier airport. We are already a regional airport. You know, you hear this talk about, well, we need to be a regional airport, we need to do this, this, and this. But, and the interstate highway will come, and so will traffic come that's part of the airport hub. Look at the number of businesses every day. One of the first things they look at is air support in a given region when they come in and to look. Some of our latest companies, that was the first thing they looked at was airport support, then comes schools, and then comes entertainment. And whether they're intermixed or what the importance is to the particular company, and housing, of course, always gets involved. But housing sort of takes care of itself. But it takes a long time to continue to grow an airport. As you can see, 22 years to make this a viable, what I feel, airport to become the best airport in Texas in 1998.
Right. Airport of the Year. I want to talk about that. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with safety. And safety is the paramount, I'm sure, your job every day is safety, because that's what the passengers are concerned with. Talk about how safety concerns and safety procedures have changed over 22 years.
Well, safety's always been big with any military pilot, such as I was. Safety is paramount in everything you do. And I think the focal point changes when you're in the airport running business. You're looking at concrete, you're looking at lights, you're looking at even weeds on final approach. You're looking at bird feeding habitats, you're looking at drop-offs along the concrete. You're looking at proper traffic control, of which we've always had wonderful traffic control here with an FAA tower and then finally a civilian tower. But ground handling, landing in hole short, automatic lighting system, which we have, so that when the tower is closed, a pilot can key his mic on tower frequency 3 to 5 times and the runway lights come up automatically, and it gives him a sense that someone is here. Our ARF, Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Division, we have expanded that from a fire extinguisher pulled behind a pickup truck to a $1.5 million facility that will be manned all the times that air carriers are in the air coming in and out of here, and a $350,000 state-of-the-art emergency one ARF vehicle. And we're involved in a heavy-duty training program to keep our people trained in firefighting techniques. It's one of the things on an airport is a tremendous cost to you, but you hope you never spend a buck fighting an airplane fire. And so all of these things are part of safety. Just small things like deer on the runway, hence the reason we put in a deer fence around this airport. That can cause tremendous damage to an airplane. We've had a couple of deer strikes over the 20-year period I've been here. And luckily, no, they didn't cause an accident, but they have damaged props or they've damaged gear doors and things on airplanes. And so it's the little things that you worry about. How are the lights seen from the air? Or how are the lights seen when you're taxiing? All of those things are taken into consideration in the airport of the year. Service to the public, commercial service. Our airlines have been just great in service to the public. I know the public gets upset when the weather's perfectly good here, but it stinks in Dallas, and they blame, well, why can't you get me out of here? Well, the safety is paramount in their minds too. So it's just how efficiently we spend the federal money that we get. That was another big course, and we've always been very cognizant of not to overspend and not to ask for something we didn't really need. And I think FAA and the people in the Dallas FAA regional office appreciate that, because I'm tight with a buck as bark on a tree. And I believe in that. I don't waste money on something that if you can use that dollar to improve something else.
Yeah. And lastly, security. That's obviously one of the biggest changes you've seen in 22 years, just because of the political atmosphere in the world, I guess, has brought about airport security as a concern that 22 years ago, while it was a concern, it's nothing like it is now. And of course, maybe it's not like it is here as it is in Dallas or Houston or a bigger city, but that certainly has sort of changed the way you work these security issues, right?
Absolutely. As you can see, you're glassed in when you get ready to board the aircraft here, the commercial air carriers. Also, you see people in blue uniforms running around the terminal now. And 20 years ago, it was a sort of a free gratis. If you cleared it with the tower, you could go from one side of the airport to the other, or you walked around in the commercial terminal and never went through a metal detector or had your bags searched or anything else. But as you said, the political climate within the world has created this, and now we've got it everywhere, and it's a routine day of life, but it's another heavy cost of operation. That to provide security and have passengers screened and go in and out. And the FAA is very adamant about this, as well as the Vice President of the United States, who has been assigned the security function to improve it within the air carrier system. So we're serious about this, and there's a lot of things that people don't know about that go on in security that feel safe. Mm-hmm. That's all I can tell you. Feel safe.
Yeah. You in 22 years, I guess you've seen some faces come through this place that maybe other smaller airports wouldn't, because of the A&M campus, the athletics, everything. Some pretty big wigs have come through this airport. Of course, more recently, I guess the George Bush connection to all of this. So mm-hmm. There's been probably some people through the old airport and this airport that people might not know have been in town or stepped on our field. Who are some of the personalities more that you remember that have stepped on your grounds?
Well, of course, all the prior presidents that were alive have been here when the opening of the Bush Library, and we handled all of those, and we've handled just numerous people in the entertainment movie industry and country and western stars, and Alexander Haig, Bob Hope, Mel Tillis, some of the ones we think about, Julie Eisenhower, and all the ones that were here for the Bush Library that you saw. And routinely, we see President Bush and his staff, and And Hank Williams Jr., we're stepping from side to side here, but name it, the race car drivers. When I first started here, with the speedway out at south of town here was going great guns, and we had a lot of the name brand, Mario Andretti, just people like that were in here constantly, running tests on their cars or coming for the race days. So just about all the political scene, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the attorney generals, you name it, we've seen them. So it's just a part of daily operation.
When you write your book, I would imagine that day of the opening of the Bush Library, that might take up a whole chapter right there for you in the life of this airport. Expand a little bit more on that day. That must have just been something.
That was like 3 days, and and preparation for that was probably several weeks in advance, and that was the most iron, and we referenced big airplanes. That's the most iron we've ever had on this airfield in any short period of time. In fact, we had to control landing times and takeoff times, and because of the dignitaries who were coming in, and some people who thought they were pretty big in the world got told, you're going to wait until so-and-so else, this other aircraft lands, and parking and ground transportation and ground security and handling of just catering alone, it was a tremendous job, and all the extra people we had to put on to pay people from one side of the airport to the other side of the airport, and thank goodness it went off without a hitch, and we didn't have any incidents. We had a lot of military airplanes in here. We had fuel constantly coming into here so we could pump it in the planes and go out of here with it. We didn't have the capacity to handle that many airplanes, so it was almost a routine. Every 3 or 4 hours a load of fuel would come in for a while, and it was an experience. It's probably more than a chapter.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and same as football games. Let me talk about those a minute. Traffic is what we live for. That's what our people are trained for, and when we have these large functions like this, it gives the guys who work the flight line an opportunity to see something different. When planes come in here on flybys like they did last week, the F-14s were here out of the Navy. It gives our people an opportunity to work with something different than a Cessna 182 or on a routine basis. It gives us a chance to sort of enlighten ourselves, and I think that it's a great thing anytime we have a football game or we have a function like the Bush Library or other functions when the library has something and people come in here, and most people just don't realize it's just routine. They hear planes flying over and taking off, and they don't realize what is involved in launching that aircraft again, or even how to get it in here, how it goes through the FAA Flight Center, how it's brought in here under radar controlled, handed off to the tower, landed, parked, ground crew handled, baggage taken care of, trash emptied, sanitary systems emptied on the airplane. That alone is 3 or 4 pages in your chapter. How do you take care of all these sanitary systems on these airplanes when they come in here? And it's just the little things that people really don't understand. They see a plane on final approach, they see a plane on departure approach, and there's just 1,001 things that have to get involved in these planes and the people that come in on them. And everybody's a VIP. I don't care if they fly a 152 or they're flying a B-52. They're still a VIP when they come in here.
You're touching on something that I've always thought. People look like you're at Easterwood and they'll see an Eagle or an Express land or depart, and they look at it as just something that they see every day, and that it's a routine type of thing. And if your employees here, and if the airline employees start looking at it as a routine type of thing, just another airplane, I would think that that's when you're running into problems, because each and every landing and departure you're thinking about passenger comfort behind safety, getting them in here and to their destination safely. So, I mean, every landing and departure they've got to treat it like the most important one they've ever had. That's pretty much the way they got to look at it, right?
That's exactly right. And you can't ever become complacent, and you can't ever forget what your job is, because you walk into a whirling propeller, it'll ruin your day.
That's right. Somebody laugh at that, but that's the kind of thing that certainly can happen.
Well, little things, just like leaving a refueling door open on an airplane,
right.
Like the door on the back end of your car. How many of you have left your gas cap off or your access door open on your vehicle? Well, no big deal. Somebody says, "Oh, looky there goes dumb." Well, you leave one of those open on an airplane, it'll probably depart the aircraft at some point in flight at over 200 knots and may go back and cut a big hole in the elevator. Or it could do other damage or cut a hole in a flap. So it becomes a flying missile at whatever airspeed the plane is flying at. So those are little things, but they're important things. Cleaning the bugs off of a windshield so the guy doesn't see another aircraft in the traffic as he's flying along. He says, "Oh, that's a bug." Well, that's not a bug. That's another bird, all right, but it's coming right at you.
Yeah.
So small things like that.
Yeah. Small things can't be small things in this business. Small things are big things.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's tremendous. That's exactly what I want.